Hi everyone, welcome to the Tormek headquarters here in Sweden, Lindesberg. This is our first ever live sharpening session in English. I see that you already have started commenting. It's fun to see it's people from all over the world, from Argentina to Australia to the US, but really from all over the world. Yes, this is our first session. Hopefully we will have many more in the future, but today we will be focusing on knife sharpening. The idea is that we have interaction with you guys and try to have a dialogue. So we will try to answer all your questions as well as we can during the show. So please fire away with questions. The questions that we don't have time for, please comment below and we'll answer them afterwards in the comments. Great. Yes, we plan to have this sharpening session for about 45 minutes to an hour. I thought I would present myself as well. My name is Sèbastian and I work as a country sales manager here at Tormek. I'm responsible for Western Europe, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. And with me I have my colleague Wolfgang. You can present yourself perhaps.
Hello, I'm Wolfgang Hess and also country sales manager, and I'm responsible for the Central, South European and East European countries. And yeah, shall we go directly?
I thought we would first just present Emma also, which is behind the camera. We brought our A team today and we took away Carl and took Emma behind the camera. Yeah, so the plan is that we are doing knife sharpening. If you come a bit closer, Emma, I will show you. And we will do 3 different knives, is the idea. First of all, a regular kitchen knife. So we'll go through the whole procedure with sharpening, honing, and so on. Then we will do a filleting knife, which I think most of you have at home, and it's also a flexible knife. We will use another jig for that. And finally, we have a skinning knife or a skinner's knife. And the reason why we take this one is because it has more of a steep curve towards the tip, which by experience people sometimes have difficulties getting perfectly right. So the idea is that we go through these 3 knives, but I'll hand over to Wolfgang and you can start sharpening, or perhaps first tell us a bit more about the machine and the jigs you will be using and so on.
Today we will use the T8 for sharpening of the knives with the standard stone, the SG 250. I will show you how to prepare the stone and even honing all in detail. And first of all, I filled up the water and the stone is a little bit thirsty. Need maybe a little bit more, so that we don't have any problem with it. So the T8 has this lift for the water throw. We have also a scraper with a magnet, and the magnet has the idea with the magnet is that the metal, when you're sharpening, not clocking and blocking the stone, so it takes out of the water to the magnet. And it's just a little bit higher, so to take all the metal shavings out of the water, that we don't get it always up. And the ladder wheel is already prepared here in that case. We will use the honing paste for that. We'll show you how we apply this. I will show you also the angle master, how it works to find the right angle. And even here our SP650, how we prepare our stone. And we will make, as we said today, a little bit of special, but more in depth about knife sharpening. Then we will talk also about the other possibilities and of stones to get other types of knives, special type of knives, or even
and what we have here is our original
stone,
and everything,
which is absolute sufficient.
And everything here is included in the package except the turning table you have underneath.
This is a very useful accessory, because you have the machine with about 14 kilos, and when you're sharpening from that side, we have to hoon from the other side. So you have the possibility, like here, I can go around, but if you have it on the workbench, like here, the machine, on that side, you can't go on the other side. Therefore, we have the turning table. If it's a small button on the back side, and then you can just simply turn around the machine and you can work. Even if you want to use the horizontal position for sharpening. And I will later explain why these two positions can be used, or which is better or less suitable for certain knives. So,
should we get going with the knife?
Yes.
You need a jig, perhaps.
The jig, we start with a normal kitchen knife. We'll use just the normal SVM-45, our normal jig. This one is possible to even fine adjust from the backside. I'll show you it later. And we'll show you how to clamp a knife. There are two screws here. One is going through and the other one is just lying on the bottom here, coming out. The idea is we clamp the knife, not all the way straight in. You get difficulties for the right angle. What we use, just think a line from this edge to the tip, like here, that line. And we align the jig with the front side to that line and take more or less the middle of the length of the blade. This helps us a little bit in the tip. Then sometimes you have kitchen knives which are more bent here. Then I go just a little bit further with the jig. Makes it a little bit easier.
We will come back to that on the
special
knives.
complete round.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we go parallel with that screw, block it, and then we take this screw, just click a little bit, and then it's all screwed fast. It's totally fixed. See, parallel. Even you can have a small knife, for example, not to touch with the jig, the stone, when you have a quite flat angle. The knife is also, if you clip them just a few millimeters here and turn, absolute fixed.
Yeah, we often see people that wants to clamp the knife all the way in, and it's not
straight.
necessary. Yeah,
exactly. It's not necessary. Just open a little bit. So this is not necessary, and then, as I said, the difficulty. And
another common mistake is that you want it parallel the whole way here.
Yep.
Sometimes we see a big V, and people pull that screw very hard, and then you won't get it even on both sides. Yep. So you don't have to pull that.
Exactly. Then it's clamped only on the front side and doesn't hold exactly. We'll need totally parallel.
We already have a few questions I thought we could answer quickly.
Sure.
One asked if these techniques works with the T4.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
Exactly. And then we had a question if this will be on YouTube afterwards, so you can see it afterwards, and that you can also. So if the technique is with us, it will be available on YouTube afterwards.
So we have clamped now the knife, and the next step would be, of course, sharpening on the stone. I'll put this just on side. This is a normal grit of about 220. And when you have a knife which is damaged, or even have any bevel on it, you have really start from scratch your knife, then you may use the rough side of our stone grader, the SP650. You can use it in that way, It doesn't matter. The only advantage what I see in that way, when you can use it, you can go over the edge and roughen up the stone. When you go in that way, you have to move a little bit over the stone, because you will get otherwise a groove in it, and then you can use just that position. You avoid it if you use it on the length side. So you can really make the stone really, you hear it already, maybe. It is quietly, it's noisy, it's unpleasant sound, it's quite rough. And then you feel it also when you do it with your machine. That means what you do is you clean up the crystals, take off the bearing material, you put them up, you give a total different surface. You've got a total different surface, much more aggressive, will take a lot of material in a very short time. On the other hand, if you have a knife with already an edge, then you can use it from the other side if you want just to resharpen your knife. And then you hear already on the sound, it's getting much more a higher pitch. It sounds softer, more pleasant. And the stone, after about even 15-20 seconds, you can really apply hard pressure on it here. You get really a nice flat surface. That means...
Sorry, what can be said also is that when you have a rough stone, if you start sharpening the knife has the same effect as a fine side. So you will go from a rough grit to a finer and finer grit. So sometimes you don't even have to use the fine side afterwards.
Exactly.
The knife will
take
make the stone.
Yeah, you're going back to the 220 well, or even a little bit further. So when we talk about grit, we have a 220 grit from the beginning. With the fine side, you can get up to 1000. And then with the rough side, it's quite aggressive. So it's really a rough 220 or maybe 180. There's no grit directly.
I think I will come with a couple of questions here.
Yeah?
Jack, he says, I noticed you are using the short jig. How about the long knife jig? And that's a common misunderstanding, that this is not only for short knives. It's you can sharpen a sword with it, as long as it's stiff. That one is for flexible knives.
Yep. You can do it also with that here, but it's just a little bit more bulky for the normal knives, especially on the tip. This is much more suitable for every size. This is really the SVM-145 is for the flexible knives. I will explain this a little bit later because we have to stabilize it
further. But just so we got that clear, we had another question also about if we're using US 430. No, we're not. I think it's supposed to be here, perhaps. We have just released a longer bar with longer legs, which for example, for cleavers, this could be a good option. But for most knives, the regular US 105 that comes with the machine works for pretty much anything.
Even the Serbian chef knives, you can use that one.
We also had a question about using tape on the
underneath,
jig.
For the normal, just used knives, they are not mostly in a beautiful shape. It will not give big marks. This knife is now used many, many times, and then you see a little bit in the polished surface some clamp marks. But we show this in that way. You get small scratches. If you want, you can do. It's no problem. Just a little bit paper between. If you want to take care about your high polished and high end knives, or especially if you have damask knives. There I would do it just to be sure. But there's not a must or a need for it.
No.
Because the risk is, the thicker is the material you put in there, the risk is that the knife slips out and changes the angle. So you have to be aware of that.
Great. We also have a question, how much will the stone grader use up the stone?
It is only the surface. It's you don't take or remove material from the stone. It is just really the surface. You take the small sharpening crystals, you rough them up, or with the fine side you cut them the tops off and smoothen the filling material. So that's it.
Great.
That is really
Great. Should we go on with the sharpening?
Yeah. And in this case, maybe also a lot of people ask if I can use it to flatten the stone again, if it's no longer round or you have a profile stone surface. This is not enough because it doesn't take.
No. So if you
need a TT50.
If you want to flatten the stone, we have the TT50, which is included in the T8, with a small diamond tip here that straightens the stone.
Yep, exactly, the drilling tool. So, and here you take about 0.1, 12, 15 millimeters.
And even with that, don't be afraid of using it. It doesn't eat the stone much either. So it's just.
And sometimes you need it really, because otherwise you will have a bad result.
Yeah.
So you can't avoid it. It's the same like on a bench grinder, you have them also to flatten. Okay.
Should we go on sharpening? How setting the angle?
Yeah. Setting the angle, and I see also already the stone has the edges. A small tip for you. They are quite aggressive. What I do normally is from the beginning, he is already done, but I show just take the rough side and round the edges a little bit off. You can avoid some big mistakes with that little trick. Okay, a little bit too low. I think we can start a machine here. Go up a little bit. Two methods.
Now you're just trying to impress them on YouTube.
Okay, the first and the easiest way is to use the angle master. In that case, we want to know how big or how what is the diameter of the stone. You have a scale here. This is a new stone, so we start at 250. For the T4, for you guys, you have the T4. You start here at 200. So this is important. For you, you have the T4 start with 200, and the T8, T7 users take the 250. So then we want to have the knife on 30 degrees. That means we have both sides. That means 15 degrees. 15 and 15 is 30. Simple mathematics. And then we find the angle in blazing here. Maybe if you come around Emma to see, we don't hold it here. You see, on that position, it would say perfect, but that's the wrong position because here's the action where the edge is. So we hold it in that way. Then you see a little bit.
So you want one piece of the plastic touching the stone and the other one the blade of the knife.
I go a little bit more down that you see really very clear. And what I take just with a fine adjustment here on the support, and just I lift it a little bit up, again testing a little bit more, and then we're there. So there's no
And perhaps we
gap.
should clarify that on this knife the bevel is so small so we can't measure directly on the bevel.
Exactly, because this is, I show it here, this bevel is too small to measure, so we measure on the side of the blade. So therefore we have to use the half of the angle. If it would be bigger, then we can measure, or we can measure if the angle is, the bevel is bigger, then we use the full angle. This is the difference.
So in this case, when we can't measure the full angle, if we have 15 degrees, we will have 15 per side, so total degrees of 30. If we would measure directly on the bevel and we would put 30, the total would be 30.
Exactly, we will use it here. The other method is to find the angle with a pen, with a marker. And this in case, if you have a knife which you don't know the angle, you mark it like that. You hold it on it, then just take the wheel underneath. It's a little bit, because it's very fine, it's not too much color. For the camera, I see it, but maybe you see it. It is a slightly idea, I have to go up because you have a little bit black on the tip. Do the camera see it? So it is a little bit too low, so I go a little bit up. That means, in case you don't know, if you don't know the right angle of your knife, then just use the pen marker.
There are a couple of advantages with the black marker method. Is one, you will reproduce the same angle as you had before,
exactly,
which will be faster. You will remove less steel, and also, even if you're measuring the angle, the advantage with having the black marker that it gives you, if you're not very experienced in sharpening, it shows you that you're using the right technique, because you can see where it takes material.
We can do it here is a complete mark, just to see that we hit all the way then. Oops, let the tip. So we take everything away. And even different producers have different angles. So it is also a question we get very often: what angle should I choose? I would say for a all-purpose knife, 25, 30 degrees, also in total. It's good for a filleting knife, but 20 degrees, 35 for meat, for the heavy-duty knives. So this is just a roughly idea, but mostly the producers or the manufacturers of the knives, they have a recommendation, and you can check on their home pages, or sometimes in the package of the knife, what angle you should use, because it depends on the quality of the steel, the hardness of the steel, and even of the purpose, of course, in the combination, because you want a sharp knife over a longer period.
But if you have no idea, if you put 15 per side or 13
you
total,
are always on the safe side.
Yeah, exactly.
So, then how to sharpen? We have now, from the back side, we are edge leading, the machine goes in that way, so we're sharpening against it. We do this because we have better control, you have the pressure better on the stone, compared if we would do this from that side. This is edge trailing, it will produce a much bigger burr compared to that. And then don't use too much pressure, because when you use too much pressure, you will create also a bigger burr, and then because you press the material up. And then just flat, I try to very slowly, just to show you how you can peel off the water of the stone. You see, I'm totally flat, I have water on the complete edge and then the bevel. This is what we want to land. Don't make the mistake, start like here, and a little bit like that. You will end up with a small hack here, or when you go, you have a small hack here. You will end up in a curved blade. This is what we don't like to have. Just flat, and then I put my pressure like 2 kilos, follow here, and I will stop here. And then here's the difficult part. What should I do here? Just to come around the edge, it is lifting up. Not lifting up like here that we end up here again, then we will have a check here. So once again, flat, pressure, slowly over, we have full control, and then lifting up.
We didn't mention that before, but this is also an advantage with sharpening against the stone, that you have the water to help you see where you are on the knife, which
Exactly.
you won't have when you sharpen with the stone, because the water will run underneath.
Exactly. Then with the tip, we want to preserve the nice tip. We don't like to have a rounded tip, so be careful. There's a very little surface where you touch the stone. That means when you have a pressure about 2 kilos, you have 2 kilos on this little surface. You will end up in a round edge. Just soft and landing, like peeling off the water of the stone, very flat, and then over again, and very in same speed. Most people make a difference. Here it's easy. Here relax, you relax because you want to control. You see what happens, and then, oh, what shall I do? And then I go that way. You will end up also with a round knife. So try to be smooth and even movement in both sides. And then even if you come down, you see, for example, with the pressure, I have total control with my left hand. I'm a total right-hand man, and then just lifting up. When you see, I use just one finger. And this is the way it goes. Just a burr. We have very fine at the moment. We go a little bit rougher. I want to produce a burr because I want to show you.
What I would say is that the most common problem we see with beginners is that they don't get the tip as nice, aesthetically nice as they would like. And the most common mistake they do is that they, if you show Wolfgang, they pull the knife upwards.
Maybe if Emma come from the side, then you will see what I do. This is the right way what I do. And then I lifting up that way. The common mistake is just if you follow, I lift it up, otherwise I will destroy the knife, you make this movement.
Exactly, that's the most basic.
So, not like a golf swing where you go in that way around, really from up and down. Some knives, depends on the shape, you have to go even a little bit out of the machine, like this. You come a little bit higher up on the stone. This depends on the stone, but normally just lifting up is for 90% of the knives. And then you end up with a really nice, you see, we hit all the way and it's parallel.
How do you know when you're done?
And when I feel the burr on the other side, and then most people ask, how long shall I?
Or how many turns?
Many turns. This is totally depending on the hardness of the steel until you rise the burr. Sometimes you say 4 or 5 times from this side and you take the other side and you turn around.
And it's also personal. Some people put more pressure, some people
less pressure,
stronger, left
how rough
right
is the stone.
Yeah, it's a lot of different. So there is no absolute answer for that.
The answer, or the absolute answer, is just when you have the burr. And what we want also in the end, that we have on both sides an even bevel. Not one bevel is quite long, on the other is very short, so we want both sides even. And we get really a nice, I feel not complete. So, yeah, we feel the burr. So that means, just to repeat, when you end up with a bevel, which is here parallel and gets up here and gets very wide on the front tip, this is the mistake and the indicator when you do this movement. So avoid it in lifting up. If you overlift, to go too far, you will end up in a rounded tip. You want to keep, of course, the nice shape of the blade. You want also straight here. That means just keep it flat, not longer because it's comfortable here and then you go fast on that side, then you will grind, of course, a little bit more here. Or when you come a little bit over the edges here, then after a while you end up with a knife which is quite rounded on the inside, which is not nice.
Do you have burr on both sides? Are you satisfied?
On one side.
On one side.
I got on both sides, yes. So, when we have done this, I think one of the most important things is deburring and polishing.
That's a common, we often see people not putting enough time and effort on the deburring process and a lot of sharpening, and deburring is key to making a perfect result.
And then for you, you have maybe, or start sharpening knives in the beginning. If you are not sure on the result, don't take the jig away. Because if you feel you have to go back to the stone for another round, then you have to adjust everything from scratch. If you keep here the jig, then you can just go back and then you can sharpen. I'm pretty sure, and I feel it's perfect. Then sharpening, polishing. I think, Emma, you want to show this from that side, from
or
the
if
top?
you turn around the machine, perhaps.
Or turn around, you want to see from the over the shoulder, or we can maybe see from different positions. The paste, in that case, we will use our PA70 polishing paste and honing paste. It's about 3 micron. I add just maybe that amount, which is in the tip, not more. It's better to apply a little bit more often than in one time too much, because it will end up always just on the working surface. It costs money. Well, we sell, of course. We like to sell them, but this is not a bigger need to use it.
No, you want a certain resistance, because otherwise the burr won't come off. So
Exactly.
if it's too smooth, then you lose the whole idea of deburring.
Exactly. People come often say, well, it's too dry, it's feeling not good, I'll put oil on it, but also the sharpening particles will slip through, and then your polishing effect is less.
Yes.
And honing. What I do to find the right angle, I use also the machine often to get a good fixation, and I go, because here's the stone, I can go straight, I go flat. So there are different possibilities. Try what you find best. If you go like this and you turn, you draw the knife back to you to hit the angle. I go mostly from the back side and on the bevel, and then when the small black particles come, then I see I'm on the bevel. I put quite a pressure on it here, and you see I use the machine to get really, or you can do it like this, hand on, and then draw that way, and the bevel is still a little bit there, and use it from the other side on it.
We have a lot of questions coming in here, and someone getting frustrated that we're not answering all questions. I'm trying to get Wolfgang to be able to show his how you sharpen without too much. We will try to answer all questions. There is someone that says, let me see here. I do have CBN wheels. Is it okay for knives? We don't really have the experience of CBN wheels, since we don't have CBN wheels on our machines. We have diamond wheels, and those works perfectly well for knives as well.
Yeah. The difference a little bit, they need a little bit higher speed and they're a little bit softer than diamond. Diamond is good for the slower speed. I've never tried CBN. We use diamond wheels, and it works also. It's a little bit more aggressive, of course, less pressure. It's a little bit, the technique is the same, just the pressure is one of the key things to, if you work with diamond wheels. You can use them dry or wet. I prefer wet, because wet is like lubrication, you have less friction, and even the dust takes away. You see immediately what you do.
And we recommend water for diamond wheels.
Yep.
Then we have Gravity School. Please don't do a video for beginners. There are tons. Please answer about being a partner of Knife Grinders, best in the world. We like Vadim at Knife Grinders. We will hopefully in the future have a more advanced knife sharpening class.
We will have, yeah.
But our idea here is to try to please as many as possible. And I know there are a lot of experts out there, and we will have an advanced knife sharpening class in the future. But now we're trying to address all of you viewers we have out there.
So when you I will finish?
Yes.
If you can check the questions, of course.
Yes, that was one question. How do you test the sharpness of a knife?
What I do here, I go over the nail. If you don't feel anything, with no pressure, really like a violin bow, and you don't feel anything, then it's fine. If you feel a little bit a hack, then just deburr on that part a little bit. Even when I just want to show you on the leather, when it's more or less polished and you don't get really deep grooves, it's like a rougher. You see the lines, then it's not polished even. But in this case,
you have so many nerves in the tips of your fingers. You feel every irregularity on the knife.
It's up to 1 micron, so 1/100th of a millimeter. You will feel. I will test on a paper sheet. This is then the ultimate test, because when you go in here, from the end all the way through, and you don't see any fibers, it's a nice clean cut, and you don't feel any resistance, then it's really, and this is just on this normal, you see you can do a very, very, very fine. And Sèbastian asked me if I can show you the
Can you do
the paper
split?
I don't know if that works.
Let Emma come closer and see if she...
You see, it's going through directly, just it bites directly in the paper. And try to, it goes, try to get between the paper.
But if
yes, no, but it's, you see.
If you can fillet a paper, you can fillet a lot of other stuff as well.
Yeah, and even if you can cut that way or straight, then it's really sharp. And even not using the Japanese stone. This is for the all-purpose kitchen knife, extremely sharp. Good.
Great.
We have more questions?
Yes, we have more questions. I thought we were going to try to answer a couple of them now. Here we have one. Do you sharpen on 220 grit, hone, then sharpen again on 1000 grit, and hone the second time? No, you just sharpen on 220 if the knife is badly damaged, then you go down to 1000, and then you hone.
Exactly. From rough, finer to the finest.
And as you saw, it cuts very well when Wolfgang has done that. If you really want to get even nerdier or even more polished, we have a Japanese water stone, which you have here, which is a polishing stone.
It's 4000 grit.
And
then we'll get rid of every small groove, and then you get a really nice, highly polished bevel.
It's a couple of our more advanced users here that are talking about the FVB, or front vertical base, about that Knife Grinders, our friend in Australia, has produced. He's a serious Tormek user, and he has a lot of good inventions. I actually haven't personally tried the front vertical base, but we think that this result is perfect, or not perfect, but good for most users.
Yeah, exactly, because as we said, when you have the edge trailing in that way, you produce much longer burr, especially you have softer steels, like damask steel. I have used it only on the Japanese stone for high-end damask knives. I've used that position, but you don't need the frontal position. You can use just the normal bar.
We have a question. Can you explain what the adjustable knob at the end of the knife is used for? I think he means that one.
That one, yeah. I turned the machine a little bit around, that Emma see it from the front. When you have placed in this here, in the angle, so you can adjust through the height, of course, the angle. Or if you use that knob, then it gets longer in that position, then you will end up longer down in the stone. That means also a flatter angle. So you can adjust, micro adjust here, or through the heights. I personally, I have it mostly all the way down or half the way. I have quite long hands. I can show it quick how I hold the jig. There are also different ways to hold it. And this is also a way you have to be comfortable with it, because when you sharpen, it's so slow, you can go very close to the point where it happens, like here when we sharpen. So what I do, I have here my finger on it, so I have the pressure forward, I have here my hands, so I can like play on a piano and I have a good feeling what happens over the length when I sharpen, when I go this. And here I don't have it blocked. Most people I see, they have it blocked. They're totally blocked. I use it just here flat. You see, not even underneath, just like a grip here. And this is and when you go here with your hand on it, you get automatically the pressure forward and always the contact to the support. And then you're just lifting up here, and it's very easy. Some people prefer like this or underneath. Don't do that, because you don't have any control of it. This is also because people are afraid.
Ted is wondering here, do you go the same process with the Japanese water stone as before?
Exactly the same.
And sometimes it's a question if you need to hone off the Japanese water stone. Perhaps it's not necessary. We tend to do it because it's there is some polishing paste in the paste, which makes it even more shiny and gives an even brighter mirror finish.
Yeah, and even with 4000, you get still a fine burr. The fine burr is still, when you cut, you will feel it. If you just slightly on the leather and go again back to the paper, you will feel a huge, huge difference. So even the Japanese stone can produce, I say can, depends on the steel, on the hardness. A harder steel produce a lesser burr than a softer steel.
Great. We have a question also. They want how do we went through it first, but the right positioning of the jig is, if you imagine a line from the heel to the tip of the knife.
Exactly. I'll take just the paper maybe to demonstrate. More or less a line from here to here.
And you set the jig that way.
This is just not make a mathematic exercise out of it. It's just over here the line, imaginary. Just place it like that to it, hold it in the middle of the blade, and go together, and then here, and try to find it parallel to here.
Great. Time is flying when we have fun, so I think we should keep
to
going to the next knife. So
Absolute.
The filleting knife.
Filleting knife, exactly the same procedure, but we use that jig because, as you see, the blade is flexible. When you would apply pressure when you sharpen, you will end up like this. And this is not good. Even it is very, very small, and the design of the jig is also very small, that even with a right angle, you don't hit the stone. And you don't need to clamp also very deep, like you see. It wouldn't work. This is absolute enough. And then this was quite loose. So, and also not overdo the screws. Some people tend to a little bit like an extra. You will destroy the threads just until finish the stop. That's enough. The same pen or with the angle master, find the angle, and exactly the same, and you see it will stabilize. This corner is mostly a little bit tricky. This is what I want to show. You see the knife, how I hold a little bit over the edge. So I go over the edge and then land and sharpen. But on the way back, don't go in the mountain. So I call it a little like a mountain, only downhill, not uphill, because uphill you will dig inside and it will end up with a bad finish. It looks not nice. Just a little bit flatter over and that movement. Again, a little bit like that, and land. Then we get a nice shape here too. And otherwise, the same procedure with the other knife.
Gary here is asking, do you always stand behind the grinder when you sharpen knives?
Yes.
We do, but
I've seen others.
yeah, we are demonstrating. So for us, it's natural to stand there because people see better. But I see a lot of good sharpeners standing on the other side as well. And there is no right or wrong. It's whatever you feel the most comfortable with.
I personally, again, I feel better behind because I see what happens. I have automatically the pressure. I don't have to think about the pressure forward when I go. I see the water, I see the burr rising. If I would do this from that side, I have not that, sorry, go in that way, not that control. Some people do this. I have to, you see, you have to pull down, and it's a little bit more tricky. Of course, if you're used to, why not? I think it's a little bit more tricky. There are a little more risks involved there. I prefer the other side. But it's my personal opinion. When you are happy from the other side and it works for you, why not?
We had the question, why didn't you go from heel to tip on this knife jig as we discussed before?
Heel to tip.
He meant that you put it straighter than
exactly, because it's a very, very long and flat.
And it's difficult. If you would tilt it wouldn't clamp the whole knife. And we need to clamp the whole knife here since it's flexible. Otherwise, it will be...
And very narrow, so it's no problem. And even if you see the knife from the front side, you see you touch here, and here we have a little bit an open. That means this gives you a little bit the extra pressure, especially when you clamp it very, very tight.
Great. Should we go on to the skinning knife?
The skinner, yes. Already exactly the same procedure. The only thing by clamping of that knife is the roundness. To get it even, if you take a line from here to here, it would be more or less like here. But this is a little bit left of the center. So I prefer go a little bit forward and even a little bit more into the radius of the curve. The more, the easier it is. And then the same thing, clamping. And every knife is a little bit different in the shape. So you have to find the right position. After a while, you will find for your knife exactly if a half a centimeter like this, or like to the left or to the right. You will find the right position to find your curve, because you see immediately how the angle is. If it's nicely parallel or it's different, it's getting wider here or wider there. The same.
Perhaps you can show just one or two strokes to show how
exactly.
you do
Just find the
right angle,
the height.
when you look after the height, Double Feed is asking if it's going to be available to view later. The answer is yes. Axe and anvil, can you raise a burr on the strop? I know.
It depends on what micro level you look, because it's soft. It's different to the Japanese stone, or to a stone it's harder. It's softer. Of course, it's abrasive, but to produce a burr, it is. You need really hard pressure.
Yeah,
no.
The easy answer is no.
Yeah.
The long version.
Just to be sure, for those who want a little extra, you can, but it is nearly impossible. So, just the same thing here. Few strokes, flat on the stone, and you see lifting up, and then and also what I suggest always, when you lift up, how high you should go. Even you see how you lie on the stone, or the position, and I always recommend If you say this is about 3 centimeters here, or not exactly 3, maybe an inch, for the American viewers, this around here, if you take, would be like here. It's the same distance between the stone and the blade, and you will look also between the stone and the blade. Then you lie up on the right angle. And then even you feel always when you're on the bevel, wait, not always the fur, we sharpen quite a bit here, a little bit more here, to get, so.
Great. It's good to have seen just a few strokes at least. We're getting closer to the time is running out, but I thought we would try to answer a few more questions before we call it a day. So someone is asking if show a pocket knife using the small knife jig. That will be another episode where we will show the small knife
off
jig.
center, we have a little problems there. We have to compensate. This will be a special.
Yeah,
we will
I
take
think
it.
We can shut off the machine, and then what do we have more? Yeah, we have here Tormek make a sharpener that does not need electric power. This system seems so unfriendly to the environment. Of course, non-electrical would be even friendlier, but
by manpower.
Yeah, but this
120 watts.
Yeah, and
200
compared
watts,
to most things you have in your kitchen, this is
a coffee machine takes more.
Yeah.
It's around 1200, and this is 200, so it's quite.
We also have people wanting maintenance tip and so on.
Yeah, maintenance.
I think we should try. We're focusing on knife sharpening today, and we will do several episodes, and we will try to have show wood turner tools, wood carvers tools, advanced. We will try to make everyone satisfied, but
to use the complete potential of the machine, even sharpening on the outside and.
I will see also. I had
many questions.
Yes, many questions. I had Mujahedin. He had a question of that we didn't do as on the knife box the same movement. I don't want. It's not that I don't want to answer your question, Mujahedin, but I'm not
you mean
sure
how to hold? You mean how we hold here? This is what I say. This is a little bit how you feel comfortable if you hold like this or like this from underneath. This is how you feel safe and secure and have best control. There's no right and wrong.
How often will we produce these episodes? We will try now when the times are like they are, we have more time and we're here, so we'll try to make it perhaps not every week, but at least every second week.
Because we have also in French, in German, in Swedish.
Yeah, we will try different languages as well.
So that means every course is 4 courses more or less.
Yes. But I think we're getting close to the end, Wolfgang.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wolfgang. Thank you, Emma, and thank you all the viewers for all your questions. We had fun. I hope you had fun. Please comment below if you have questions, what you would like to see more of, what you want to see less of, and also what you thought about the episode in general. Thank you for watching. Stay safe and stay sharp.